So attendance enabled, guys. Okay, good morning, guys. So how many have I got in the attendance? Yeah, attendance is enabled. Again, did you guys get the actual email from Google Forms? I actually forwarded it to you later. But did you guys get the actual form from Google? I mean, I'm not sure what is happening. It is there in my sent folder, but it is not getting sent to anyone, which is really worrying because this is how I have been sending you guys the attendance forms till now. But for some weird reason, it is not going through now. So I have to forward it from my sent mail. So anyhow, so it's enabled. Please put your attendance. Okay, and we can start with the Shepherd. So today we are going to discuss lecture 4.2. This was about for loops, and we also have some content on the. I think we started it yesterday itself. Plus plus operator. So we will discuss something about the plus plus operator as well. But before that, do we have any queries from yesterday? Is it something that was missed yesterday that anyone would like to talk about? Okay. So yesterday's things are clear. Any queries from yesterday? Great. Um, and by the way, yeah, Gyanin, that is the issue. I mean, I'm not sure why it is happening. Why the original emails are not going through? That I'm not sure. It's really becoming a problem for me. Uh, anyhow, so yeah, so we are going to discuss 4.2 today. Any shepherds? By the way, when is your end semester exam? Have you guys checked the schedule? Because I have to plan
Sir, it is approximately 15 March.
approximately 15 months. So because I have to plan the weeks. See, the issue is something like this. I was told to make a syllabus for 14 weeks, right? This was what was expected from me. I told them that I don't need more than 10 to 11 weeks. I mean, I'll just use the other weeks for revision, discussion, something like that. But then I got a scolding saying that no, the syllabus has to be for 14 weeks. There's no way it can be less than for 14 weeks. So I used a trick. I basically extended it to 12 weeks, and then I said I'll use 2 weeks for revision. Okay, one before the midsem and one before the end sem, so that somehow they agree to my my schedule. So now the issue is I'm not sure how many weeks do we have left, right? If we have enough weeks to cover all the content, then we can basically use up the next week for revision. But if we don't have enough weeks left, then we'll have to take up the next week as a teaching week. By the way, in midsem you will only get content up to this week. Okay, whether or not we use the next week as revision, irrespective of that, uh, your midsem syllabus will be up to this week. So whatever we have seen till week 4, that will be part of your midsem syllabus. um, 12 March is last day. Okay, let me check. What would it be? Mm,
We have nearly 10 weeks.
Nearly, we have 10 weeks, right?
Yes, sir. And that
Uh,
taking the midsem into it.
yeah, so then yeah. So that is why, I mean, I would like to use the revision week towards the end sem. Okay, so that I will use because I want at least 1 week before the end sem we stop teaching and we start having discussions. Okay. Um, so what I will do is probably I will use up this revision week. I mean I will add more content, but it won't be a part of your midsem. Yes, yes, we are talking about the theory midsem. Uh, so this will not include whatever we see in week 5. Okay. I'll just have to count, right? I mean, I have to count how many weeks I have, and then what is the content I have to teach you. Uh, Basically, I have content for 12 weeks. Okay. So essentially, I still need 8 more weeks of teaching time, and if we have any more time left to us, that can be used up for revision and discussions, whatever we want. Okay, so it is up to us like how to plan it. I'll have to count it. I have to exactly make sure that everything, because I'll also have to look at stuff like holidays, right? I think there is only one holiday, and that is 26th January. Yeah, please, like Naveed is not having is not able to.
14 Jan.
So 14 Jan is a holiday, right?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
14 Jan is a holiday here. Get it? That is weird. Usually it is not a holiday.
It's a
Okay.
big day for us.
Yes, sir.
What?
So it should be a holiday, sir. Makar
No, no, no.
Sankranti.
See,
It must be.
um, um, I'm not saying it is not a you know not a important day. I'm saying it usually they don't put that as a holiday. In Rohit, have you counted it? Then I think we can afford if we have 11 weeks left because I only have after week 4. I think I only have like so it's 13 or something. So I probably have only 8 weeks of content left. So we can use up the next week. Uh, yes, Ayush, I will talk to you about it. So let me just finish off this. So guys, I will do this arithmetic again in the evening today. But if, as Rohit has said, that we have 11 weeks left, then probably next week we will not have any lectures. Lectures, as in, we will have lectures, but there won't be any content. We will just do a revision in the class. Okay. So that is what I wanted in the beginning, but I was forced to add more content to the syllabus. So that is why I now have to do this typical arithmetic thing. Um, but if it is really 11 weeks, then we have a lot of time, and then in that case, next week there won't be any content for you to study. Ha, that is what, right? I mean, I knew that in my arithmetic it was like this only. I thought that I'll need, in my view, we were 1 week short. Uh, so, that is what, Sahil. So then what I will do is I will use up this week's revision time, and the revision week this time for midsem, even though I will not include it in the syllabus of midsem. Okay, so you will have your midsem over the syllabus covered till this week. Okay, if we include this current week and the week of the midsem, so the week of midsem we won't have any classes, Shashwat. So we can only count the teaching classes, right? Yeah, kind of. I mean, we see, you have to realize that this is actually a shortened semester. It is supposed to be a shortened semester. So the other option I have is to give up on the last week lectures, right? That is basically uh, additional topics in the last week. But I actually do want to discuss those topics. So what we will do is we'll use up the revision week. I will add more lectures, but as I said, it will not be a part of your midsem. Okay, your midsem will be based on content up to this week. So you have the full next week to study, and if you have any questions, of course I am always available on email. So so next week too will be teaching, but that teaching won't be included in the midsem. Okay, one short explanation about the paper. So it will be a short paper. It will be a 1 hour paper. I will give you 60 questions in 1 hour. So basically, you will have to spend about a minute on each question, and the questions would be such that. So let me say this like this, that there will be some part on Bash because we have spent a lot of time on Bash. There will be some parts on basic computer science, something that we discussed in week 0, and then we will start, with the C part, and C part will contain stuff up to for loop. Yes, it will be MCQs only. MCQs, or it will be like fill in the blanks kind of thing. So it is like, just typing a word or typing a uh, Pranav, it most probably it will be a Google form. Most probably. Um, last time when I did that, there were some complaints that um Google Form was not doing that well. Uh, but uh, but I'm not sure. I mean, I don't think there is any other better solution than Google Form. So Anukul, Google Form, if you create a quiz on Google Classroom, it will essentially be a Google Form only. Okay, so that is what I will do. I will create a Google Form for you guys, and as of now, I am planning to have 60 questions in 60 minutes. uh, it will be more towards conceptual things, right? Rather than actual C syntax. There will be C syntax questions. It's not like there won't be any C syntax questions. There will be some C syntax questions. Basically, you should have learned something in your labs as well. So there will be some C syntax questions, but it will mostly be a conceptual paper, right? Conceptual as in I will try to see how much have you learned in the as far as the concepts of C is concerned. So that will be the kind of paper you are going to get in midsem. And of course, we'll discuss more in the next week. We will have the whole next week to discuss midsem only. So let us just start with the for loop today. So who would like to be shepherd? Arush, anyone who has not done it before, first let us start with that. Okay, anyone who has not done it before, let us start with them. Uh, okay, Tejeshwar, you have not done it before? Tejeshwar, have you done it before? Oh, Shaurya, you have not done? I thought you have done it. Okay, okay, okay. So Shaurya is one. So Shaurya, you are the first one. IT or CS? Shaurya? Sorry, you are CSAI guys, right? I'm sorry. Yeah, the problem is on Monday, I think the IT class is before the CSAI class, and then on Tuesday and Wednesday, the CSAI class is before the IT class. Okay, CSAI, let me just mark it. Oh yes, yes, yes. See, it's like this, uh, just shut me up, to be honest, right? I have a habit of jumping into conversations. So just shut me up. You can simply say, "Sir, let me answer," okay, and then I will shut up. Just shut me up when you feel I'm speaking too much. So Shore, you are the one. Let me mark you in my sheet, whatever I have with me. So Shore is there. Okay. Now next one after Shore. Uh, Rohan, have you done it before? Okay, so just a minute. Okay, Tejeshwar, you have done it before, so then we can't have you right now. So Rohan is. Are there two Rohans or just one Rohan? Rohan Chandra and okay, there are two Rohans. Rohan Chandra, have you done it before?
No, sir.
So Rohan Chandra is one. Your section?
The CSAI.
Okay. Rohan Chandra. Okay, I've added you. And then there is another Rohan. The I'm not sure. I'm just reading it as Rohan in my. So the other Rohan. Would you like to do it too?
Yes, sir. I can.
And have you done it before?
No, sir.
Okay. Uh, Rohan, what's your roll number?
It's 65, sir. LCI 65.
6 LCI 65. Yeah, got it. Okay. I need two more, especially those people who have not done it before. I will actually one more. I will pick one randomly. Uh, the Yash. Okay, sorry. Dharya, have you done it before?
No, sir.
So Dhar is one. Avnish, just we'll start with you tomorrow. Okay. So I have four now, and I will pick one randomly. Dharya, what is your section?
Sir, CS.
CS. Okay. Just a minute. CS. Okay, so I have four now. I will pick one more from This is what CS1, right? I will pick one more from CS1. Akshat Negi. Are you there? CS1, right? This is CS1. So Akshat Negi, are you there? Okay. Akshat Negi. Then Harshita Doppalapudi.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Have you done it? Harshita, have you been a shepherd before?
No, sir.
Okay, so you are one more. Okay. Harshita. Got it. Okay, guys. So let's start. I'll share my screen. And as Yash has said, please stop me from speaking if I'm speaking too much. It's your, you guys are the shepherds. So I will keep writing more in the bottom, but you start with this question.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the first question is explain the flow of control here. So this is a for loop in which there is first the initialization statement which initializes the variable, the condition statement which checks the condition for which the body of the loop will be run, and the update statement which will regularly update the variable after every iteration. So the flow starts at the initialization condition. When the first iteration of the loop is starting, the loop first initializes a variable to a certain value and then checks the condition. If the condition is true, it runs the loop body. After running the loop body for the next iteration, it updates the variable. Hello?
Yes, go on.
Yeah,
It
continue.
updates the variable and then again checks the condition. If the condition is true, it iterates the next part of it iterates for one more time the loop body and then updates. This goes on until the condition becomes false, and then after that the loop body doesn't run and the loop ends. Hello?
Yeah, so
Would you like to add to that?
Yeah, any clarifications or doubts, please ask.
Hello.
Hello?
What will happen if we remove the loop body?
So listen, loop starts after the initialization condition and update. What we write in the loop body is up to us.
No, what will happen to the control if we remove the loop body?
No, the control won't change.
Then
after the
explain.
initialization, it checks the condition, then runs the loop body. If there is nothing in the loop body, the next iteration will start. Yes, can you? The question is, can you again update the variable inside the loop? Yes, you can. Just like we used an update statement in the while loop, we can also add an update statement in the loop body, which will update the initial variable, which will further be updated by the update statement in the loop initialization.
I think someone else asked about what is the difference between for and while loop. I just like to say, like, for loop, you have to know the number of iterations you're making. Like, if you're writing a condition, you should probably have an estimate of how many times you're going to run the loop. There is chance that you don't have to write it, but it's better to be very clear about that. While in while loop, you don't need to exactly know the number of times. Suppose you just need it to execute till a certain condition is true. So that will be okay with that.
Can anyone take the next question?
Yeah, I would like to. So second one, firstly, it's for and firstly we need to initialize I is equals to 0. Okay, then we put a condition on it like I is less than 10. So this loop will go on until I exceeds 10. Okay, and at the end we put a I plus plus, which means that firstly I will take the value of I and then it will add 1 to it. So this is how we will update I. Okay, so for example, like I is equals to 0, and if we're adding 1 to it, so for the next loop, it would be I is equals to 1, then I is equals to 2, and this will go until and unless I exceeds 10. Do you have any doubts regarding this?
Hello? Nirmal was asking a question. What if we don't give the initialization condition and update at the same time? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello.
We can hear you. Sorry, you can start.
Okay, I have a doubt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what if we don't give the initialization condition and update? What will happen?
Yeah, I was talking about that. So if we don't pass any type of information into the loop statement, not the body, the initial statement, then it will always be true, and the loop will effectively become an infinite one.
I think he
It was
asked
in the
about the
slides.
initialization. Sorry, not the condition. He asked like, is it possible to skip the initialization?
Another 3.
Oh yeah,
See,
okay,
you
fine.
can't skip initialization, but you can use just the semicolon and if you kind of define integer or some other variable from the very beginning only. Okay, Nirmal?
Okay.
Okay, so any doubt regarding second one, A part? Okay, we'll assume that we don't have any doubts regarding
There
this.
is a question by Divya. Please answer it. Shall I read it? So the question is, does the initialization contains only those variables which we will be updating? Can we initialize other variables too? This is the question from Divya.
So I don't think that we can actually initialize the variables which we don't update.
I'm guessing you can initialize the variables. It doesn't make a difference until and unless you're going to. I mean, if you're going to use it in the for loop construct only, you can initialize it.
Any other shepherds would like to answer this?
I don't think so that it initializes.
Okay, so someone's mic is open. I'm not sure whose it is. Rohan Chandra, it's probably you. Maybe, yeah. So Divya, the answer is yes. So basically, let me also tell you something that these slots in for loop, I mean, they are really nothing that is that are very sacred in some sense, right? So basically, if you can use these slots to run basically any C statement. So yes, it is possible that you can actually use it to initialize other variables, the variables that you're not even using in the loop. They're just like another C statement. It's just that for gives you a very a very compact a very compact what can I say, syntax to include the initialization then and there, so that there is little confusion about it. So yes, you can, in theory, your compiler will not have a problem if you try to
Can you
initialize the
repeat,
variable.
sir? So there is a lagging.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. Let me check my connection again. It seems fine. Yeah, it seems fine. Not sure what happened. So okay, I'm reiterating everything. So basically, the initialization slot in for you can initialize any variable you want, whether or not you use it in the loop. There is no restriction on, the compiler will not complain, for example, if you initialize a variable that you're not using in the loop. So it is just like another C statement. It's just that for syntax is such that you can include multiple aspects related to a loop at one particular location. Okay, so this is the idea. You can still initialize any other variable you want. Okay, there is no problem with that. But usually we initialize variables which are relevant for the loop. That is the idea. Syntactically it is fine to initialize anything else, but right, semantically it makes sense to only initialize those variables which are being used in the loop. Okay, so this is your answer. So now shepherds can take up other queries.
So, like Kriti asked a question, if we initialize the variable before the loop, then it is required to again insert.
Yeah, that is a good question. Go ahead.
Place, and then you can go on.
There is a question from Sahil.
Hello, can I answer Kirti's question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so yes, we can initialize a variable before we start a loop. We just have to pass the value of that loop in the initialization statement.
Okay, so Kirti, if I'm not wrong, yeah, this what you are trying to say is if I write I equal to 0 before the for loop, is it required to write it again in the for loops for loops statement? No, it is not required. That is the answer, short answer. That is just a convenience. Okay, that slot in for loop, it is for your convenience. Okay, if you have already initialized your variable before that, you are not required to do that again.
Sahil, do you?
सर
Yes,
उसकी जगह ऑलरेडी सेमीकोलन लग जाएगा.
हाँ, उसकी जगह सिर्फ सेमीकोलन लग जाएगा. आपको कुछ भी लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है वहां पे. आप दोनों ही जगहों पर सेमीकोलन लगा के छोड़ सकते हो. इट इज अलाउड. तो अगर आपका वेरिएबल ऑलरेडी इनिशियलाइज्ड है तो आपको वहां पर उसको री इनिशियलाइज करने की जरूरत नहीं है. आप सिर्फ सेमीकोलन लगा के छोड़ सकते हो.
Sahil, if you're talking about the interchange of places, so that can't happen. Firstly, it would be initialization, then the condition, and then only we would at the end put some update. Okay, it can't be like you are firstly you are putting some condition and then you are initializing. No, that can't happen. It's a format. Okay.
Okay, so Sahil's question again, I'm just trying to intrude into your things because I'm trying to manage the time. Sahil, actually, these two statements, okay, the only thing that is different is the order in which they will be executed. The initialization slot, whatever you write in the initialization slot, that is executed only once, before the loop starts. The update slot, whatever you write there, that will be executed multiple times after each iteration ends. That statement will be executed again. The compiler will not complain if you write some other statement there. Okay, if you write something that is not really an that is not really an update, if you write it there, compiler will not complain. But what is different between the initialization slot and the update slot is how many times these instructions are executed. So this is why the flow is important. Okay, you have to understand the flow. That is the idea. There are a lot of queries, shepherds, in the chat. Please start with them. So for example, Pulkit Gupta has a query, Rohit N has a query. Please start with it.
Pulkit, what do you mean by irrelevant variables? Can you please elaborate?
That we don't use matlab, in our statements.
CS sir earlier told us that it won't actually matter if we initialize some variables which we are not actually using, but yeah, it may actually store or take up some memory.
So guys, I think one rule that we should probably have now is, because it is getting a bit haphazard. When Shepherds stop speaking, just unmute yourself and ask the question, uh, because even it is difficult for me to follow it as well. So just keep on asking your questions. Unmute yourself and ask the question. If it has not been answered, of course. If you got the answer in the chats, then it is fine, but if it is not yet answered, please unmute yourself and ask. So all the queries resolved, whatever is going on in the chat, or everything is resolved? Anyone having any queries which are not yet resolved?
Sir, what will happen if we drop I equals to 0 in the for statement?
Nothing will happen basically. Okay, sorry, Shepherds, you have to answer it.
I mean, if you're going to use I, you have to initialize it somewhere. It doesn't have to be inside that initialization ka slot only. You can initialize it outside the for loop also.
No, if we drop the I equals to 0 statement and only write for I less than 10 I plus plus, it will give an
I mean,
error.
you need to initialize a variable I, right? Like if you're not initializing it, what memory slot will it get allotted? You cannot just use it randomly. You have to declare the variable first, right? At least.
I think he's just asking about, like, if so Sudeep, if I'm not wrong, you're saying that the variable was created somewhere, but you just don't want to initialize it within the for loop. Is it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, then it is
Then
fine.
that's not a problem.
Yeah, then it is fine.
You can simply use semicolon and go on.
It will be then infinite loop or what?
No, it would be
No.
only
It would be a condition loop.
Yeah, go on, please. Sudeep,
Yeah.
it won't be an infinite loop until and unless you put on some condition on it, okay?
Okay, got it.
Okay, would anyone like to take from here?
Yeah. How will be the B in second question will be executed? Please tell me.
Hello, can I tell? Hello.
Yeah, go
Sure,
ahead.
keep on speaking.
Okay. So the B part will be an infinite loop because there is an initialization condition, but there is no update. So I would remain equal to 0 forever, and the loop will continue running indefinitely.
Okay.
Yeah, please convince yourself that you understand this, because it is a very important question. I am getting some queries on my email as well, where students have probably mistakenly put a semicolon after while or something like that. That while thing is actually similar to that, right? So something like this. Let me also write it here, even though it is a question from from yesterday. If you do something like this, num equal to 5, and then you write something like this: while num is less than while num is greater than 0, and you put a semicolon here, that this too is an infinite loop. Okay, so please convince yourself that you understand why this and this, they are both infinite loops. If you have any doubts, please ask them again.
Why are we using semicolons here?
Yeah, Shepherds. Okay, so let me
Can
answer this. Yeah, go ahead, Shepherd. There is a Shepherd who wants to answer.
okay, Nishal, where?
In the while statement and in the for statement also. In the loops, I guess.
Inside the bracket?
He's talking about this, whatever I have highlighted right now, this as well as this. He's talking about this, right?
Okay, so see, firstly we need to initialize, and then we will need to put condition, and at the end we need to just put the semicolon in order to likewise we are not really want to upgrade something, so we can simply put on semicolon. The compiler will read it as like it would
I think his
produce.
question is about the last semicolon, right? This semicolon, this one, and
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
this one. So okay, let me answer it. No, so basically the point is something like this. For every loop, there should be some body. Okay, body as in what is to be executed in the loop. Now it is possible that you just give it one. So yeah, by the way, this is something that you guys might have already seen in a code block. Usually for loops, if you have a single statement, you don't need the braces, right? This is something that you guys have probably seen already, that if you have a single statement associated with an if or with a for or with a while, you don't need a semicolon. Sorry, you don't need you don't need braces. Now what happens is, if that single statement that you want to give is an empty statement, a null statement, you can simply give a semicolon there. Okay, so it is syntactically correct, but as Nishchal is asking, Nishchal, usually this is a kind of syntax error. Students, when they are typing the code, they often mistakenly put a semicolon after the while or for statement. Okay, this is usually a mistake. Usually it is something that people do when they are beginners in programming, and then it becomes very hard for them to figure out what is going wrong, right? Why is it that this loop has become infinite? So I explicitly added this so that you understand that even a single semicolon will be considered to be the body of the loop. So your compiler will basically keep on trying to run the same body, and if there is no update, so for example, in this case, in the part A of this question, there is at least an update statement that is happening here, right? So basically the compiler will not do anything, because the semicolon means don't do anything. So, the compiler will not do anything for 10 times. Okay, and then this condition will become false and it will go out of the loop. Now, the problem here is that because there is no update to I, uh, every time i's value will simply remain 0. So then this will become an infinite loop, because there is no body here which is updating the value of I. I have skipped the update statement too, so there is no way for I to get increased. So this will essentially become a infinite loop. The same problem is here. Okay, I initialized num to some value, and then I'm basically saying while num is greater than. So usually what happens is something like this. Students will write some statement like this here, num minus minus. Okay, and they will assume that this loop will run 5 times, something like this. But because they have put a semicolon here, this becomes an infinite loop, because this statement is no longer a part of your loop. It is outside the loop body. Okay, the only statement that is there in your loop is this so-called semicolon, and the compiler will basically keep on doing nothing, and because the num's value will not change, this will become a infinite loop. Is it clear now to everyone, or do I need to
The
explain? Yeah.
but we won't observe anything in the output So how we
Yeah.
will know that it is an infinite loop?
In
That here we
output,
can.
in output, your program would look like it is stuck. Stuck as in, you will run the code. It will not come back to your bash, your prompt. Okay. You'll just see nothing. It's like your cursor will keep on blinking. And if you are running a very old system, your system's fan will also start. Okay. There will be a noise in your system as if it is being stressed to work, but nothing is happening. Okay, so basically, this is what an infinite loop looks like. You are asking the system to do something.
सर ये नम माइनस माइनस से सर इसमें ब्रैकेट में भी रख दिया तो भी कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता।
ब्रैकेट में मतलब ब्रैकेट में कहाँ पे मतलब
सर ये
हाँ
नम
हाँ समझ गया आप ऐसे करना चाह रहे हो ऐसे
यस सर यस
तब भी कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता आप ये बेसिकली एक रैंडम कोड ब्लॉक बन जाएगा ठीक है आप अपने कोड में कहीं पे भी ऐसे रैंडमली कोड ब्लॉक्स बना सकते हो बाय द वे पर उसका कोई वो स्कोप करने के लिए हो सकता है कि हो सकता है आप एक छोटे से स्कोप में कुछ करना चाहते हो तो ये एक रैंडम कोड ब्लॉक बन जाएगा दिस विल नॉट बी अ सिंटैक्स एरर okay but your control will never go inside this if there is a semicolon here
तो सर अगर ये रैंडम बनाते तो इससे कोड पे इफेक्ट पड़ता है क्या मतलब रन करने पे
नहीं कोई इफेक्ट नहीं पड़ता इस तरह के ब्लॉक्स बनाने से आपके कोड बिल्कुल वो सीक्वेंशियली ही एग्जीक्यूट होगा वो बताया ना कि वो बेसिकली एक लैंग्वेज का एक फीचर है कि आप ब्लॉक्स बना सकते हो
ओके
Yeah, sorry, there were some queries on the chat. Shepherds, no, please ask the Shepherds, okay? Unmute yourself, and if it is not yet resolved, please ask the Shepherds. So is it clear now, the both parts of this question? Any queries related to it?
Sir, I want to ask something.
Go ahead.
So if we initialize the variable in the beginning like I equal to 1 and then we reinitialize the loop by changing its value like I equal to 0, so it will work or it will give an error?
It will work. It will work. See, this is a general programming thing. Okay, variables are something that can be changed in uncountable number of times. Your compiler will only have a problem if you are trying to assign an incompatible value to it. But as long as you are trying to assign a compatible value to any variable anywhere in the code, compiler will have no problems.
So after coming out of the loop, it will again use I equal to 1. If we need the
you can reinitialize anything you can reassign any value anywhere, right? It has to be as I said, if after the loop you have another statement saying I equal to 1, that is fine, no issues.
No sir, the I equal to 1 statement was before the loop. So if we need the value of I again, so will it be I equal to 1 or it will be I equal to 0 because I equal to 0 is finished in the loop?
See, sometimes I cannot just imagine what you're either write it on the chat so that I can understand what you are saying. So because I'm not able to imagine what is it there in your mind.
Means in the starting we initialize like int I equal to 1, then we go in the for loop and write I equal to 0, then we come out of the for loop and we want the value of I back again in some other kind of work. So we can
You can use it, right? It is a simple variable. You can change its value as many times you want. So after the loop as well, you can write something like I equal to 0 again, or I equal to 5, or I equal to 10.
No, so after the loop, if I write n equal to I, so it will take value 1 only.
Please write it on the chat. I'm not really able to understand what exactly is the syntax, what exactly is the code that you are trying to ask.
Okay.
Yeah, anyone else with any queries about why these two loops were infinite loops? Is everything clear?
Sir, I actually want to ask in question number 2, A part, is the loop is running infinite time or 10 times?
It will run 10 times, but it
Yes,
will
sir,
not do
because of
anything.
the updation.
Yeah, it will not do anything. It's like it's a waste of your CPU, but it is not an infinite loop.
Okay, sir.
In
Thank
fact, let me tell you a place where you can use it. Okay, so I mean, it's not something that we do these days because the processors are really fast. But in the old days, okay, when the processors do not used to be so fast, we used these kind of loops for delay, right? So if you want some kind of delay in processing, you showed one message to the user, then you want to delay your next message by say a few milliseconds. You just run a loop like this for 1 million times. Okay, so you basically do I equal to 0, I less than 1 million, I plus plus semicolon. So then the loop will run for 1 million times. Okay, so your processor will not execute the next statement, and then after 1 million times the next statement will be executed. So to the user it will look like there is a delay, right? Something like a visual effect of something that appears after some time. Like, does it make sense? These days it might not work because our processors are really fast. So even 1 million might just run in less than a millisecond or something like that. But in the old days it used to be a trick. If the language did not have a wait function where you can basically suspend your processing for certain amount of time, this was a kind of hack to add weight in your program.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, it still works. My friend had animated using loops in Java, so it was still working then.
Yeah, actually what happens is in Java, for example, you have a function called thread.wait. So you can simply call thread.wait. You don't really have to use in loops like this. You simply give thread.wait the amount of time you want to wait, and then this is like the simple way you can do it in Java. All the languages which supply you a wait method or a suspend method, this is really not required anymore. But I'm talking about primitive computing when uh, the multi-threading libraries were not available. Then people used to use this as a hack.
And sir, it would also depend upon the hardware, how much time it would be waiting.
Yes, of course.
Just
That
depended
is
on
why.
the code.
Of course, why. So that is why modern day computers with gigahertz of clock cycles, it doesn't matter, right? A million times running, it doesn't even matter, right?
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
right. But in the olden days, when the processor speeds were not really that high, when it used to be in kilohertz and maybe megahertz, then it will show you some kind of delay. These days, it is pretty much it's useless to write these kind of loops. But yeah, this is a uh, common error that beginners do. They'll put a semicolon because, see, you have to inculcate this in your mind that normally after each statement in C you will type a semicolon, but after a for or a while or an if, for example, you are not supposed to write a semicolon. But sometimes when you are typing, when you are new to programming, this is a very common mistake, and it'll just blow your mind off. You will say everything is fine, why isn't my code running? And it is that semicolon which is the culprit. So this is why I wanted to people to discuss this. Okay, any more queries or discussions on this? There is something going on in the chat that I have not seen. I just hope that you guys are resolving each other's queries. But if your query is
Sir,
not yet resolved, you can ask. Go ahead.
sir, can you once again tell what will happen if we sir drop I equals to 0 from the for? Sir, I am
Uh,
initializing it I, but I am not doing I equals to 0. So what will happen in
if you
the
are doing it before the loop, it doesn't matter. If you are writing, for example, I is equal to 0 before the loop, and then you are just putting a semicolon in the for statement, then it doesn't matter. It is equivalent.
so if we are overall not doing I equals to 0?
Then you're risking something, because what happens is if you are not initializing I at all, I will get initialized to some random value, some value that you cannot predict. So then your loop may or may not become infinite loop. It depends on what exactly was the value that you were given. So for example, if you are, it is not, it won't probably be an infinite loop if you are doing I plus plus, because basically what happens is each variable has a circular range, right? So let us say even if your I gets initialized to a highly negative or a highly positive value, over a period of time when you'll keep on doing I plus plus, I plus plus, I plus plus, at some point of time that I less than whatever value will actually be true, that condition will be true. So it won't really be an it won't really be an infinite loop, but the number of times this loop will run will become unpredictable.
Okay, sir.
So any more questions? I have not written anything specifically on the plus plus operator in the questions here, because I thought we had a discussion about it yesterday. But would you guys like to discuss it again, the plus plus operator?
गेट नहीं खोला जाता है तुम लोग को, मारे के फेंका जाएगा गर्मी है तुमको, तब से कट कटा सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है, तो बगार में बैठे उधर से नहीं आ सकता है। नहीं
Nikhil, your mic is on. Okay. Sorry. Would you guys like to discuss the plus plus operator again? I thought we discussed it yesterday, so whether we would like to discuss it again or not, it's up to you. If you want, we have some time. We have some 5 minutes of time. We can discuss the plus plus operator again, or we can continue with the discussions we are currently having. It's up to you. We have 5 minutes.
Sir, when we run a code, sir, in the output it shows execution time, this matlab in seconds. Sir, what is it? Matlab?
When did you run it? Where did it show you execution time in seconds?
Sir, matlab in output window, sir.
In some VS Code, or is it?
Yes, sir, code blocks.
This VS Code block thing, I'm not really able to get a hang of it because I have never used them. So sometimes I get a lot of queries on VS Code and I just don't understand the terminology that people use. So it's like this. When you use an IDE, so these VS Code code blocks, whatever it is, they're called IDEs, integrated development environments. So they are, you understand that they are a process on their own. There is a process that is running on your system which is allowing you to Ayush, okay, this is a very Ayush, I'll see what you have written. It is, and I'll have to read it what exactly it is. But basically, when you use an IDE, it is the IDE that creates a child process. Child process, as in your actual program that gets executed. It is executed by VS Code or code blocks. So if you remember in the beginning, I told you that these processes have trees. Okay, so there is one process that forks another process. That process can fork another process, so on and so forth. So each process will probably have a parent process. The process which has no parent is the init process. Actually, there is an initialization stage process which has no parent, the init process. But all the other processes that are there in your system, I'm talking about Linux and Unix, by the way. I'm not sure about Windows, but in Unix and Linux, if we keep on going higher in the process tree, the last parent, the root will be init. Anyhow, let's get back to. So basically, what happens is your VS Code or whatever thing you use, it actually forks a new process where your actual program gets run. So towards the end, and when the process completes, VS Code simply shows you the amount of time this process ran, something like that. This is the idea. Yeah, Ayush, let me then read your query. If you have any questions, you can ask. I'll have to read Ayush's code.
सर अपन सर जब भी रन करते हैं तो सर वो टाइम तो सर मतलब उसमें बिल्कुल नहीं लगता, लेकिन उसमें टाइम मतलब आउटपुट में बड़ा दिखाता है, जैसे मतलब 3.2 सेकेंड।
वो इसलिए कि वो एक्चुअली आपका दिखाता है कि टोटल कितनी देर के लिए वो प्रोसेस चली, शायद वो ये दिखा रहा होगा। आपने कुछ इनपुट दिया होगा, कुछ एंटर किया होगा, जो कुछ भी किया होगा, वो टोटल टाइम दिखाता है कि ये प्रोसेस इतनी देर के लिए चली। आई एम नॉट श्योर, आई हैव नॉट यूज्ड VS Code, but it is probable that it shows you the amount of time your process ran. Okay, उसमें actual execution time बहुत कम होगा, लेकिन आपने input दिया होगा, enter किया होगा, उसमें कुछ time आ गया होगा. Okay, so let me read what Ayush has written. Ayush, I'm not sure why it is showing 49. It should probably show you 1. Yeah, even I am not sure why it is showing you 49 there, because it is C out. I'll have to go and check out how C out used to work, right? It has been some time since I have
No,
used
sir,
C out.
49 is for that while. I also means converted that while. That's why it's showing 49. You can see my C out statement. X
No, no, no,
70.
no. See, I understand that when you do X is equal to char type of 0, the ASCII code for 0 is 48, right?
Okay.
So then the actual integer value is 48. And then when you do X plus plus, it becomes 49, right? But okay, sorry, this
No,
is
sir.
int.
No,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah.
Sir, what is happening here? Char x is storing the character 0.
Yeah,
And
so the
when we
actual
are doing x
integer value.
plus plus, the character 0 becomes the character 1.
Right.
And when we store it into y, it gets typecasted into int, which is 49.
Okay. Y is int type. I didn't see. I thought Y is also char. Yeah. Then it is fine. What is the problem then?
So I'm having problem in that one. Why it is showing that one?
Because it is
That
because
means
now
it is the character 1. Like if
mathematical operation of x plus plus.
Yeah. So Ayush, the problem is it is not really one the integer.
number,
It is one the
yes.
character. Okay.
Like
And
if you do if you had stored a in character x, then a plus plus would give you b.
this is what. So do this Ayush. Replace 0 with a. Character a. Then it will show you b there instead of 1 or 2 or 3.
Okay.
Okay, it is not integer 1, it is character 1. The problem is cout will actually, if you want to write an equivalent printf statement, what would you write there? You will write printf %c space %d, right? And then you will get 1 and 49. So 1 is a character, it is not an integer. If you write printf %d space %d, then you will receive something else. You will receive 49 and 49.
Okay.
Right, so
it
it
will throw errors because we have initialized x as char and we are using percentage 0 in the printf.
So in cout basically uses this %c thing as implicit. Okay, so because the type of x is char, I didn't see the type of y is int actually. Yeah, so because the type of x is char, it will be typecasted or not typecasted. I mean, this is exactly what the character is, right? It is 1. And then if this y is actually an integer, so then it will become 49.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
you.
Yeah, sorry. And there are so many chats in the chat section. If there is any doubt that has not yet been resolved, please ask. We don't have too much time. I think it's already done. 10:03. We'll break now. Otherwise. Jay, I guess. Yeah, we will break now. Because we'll have a class right now, right? So we will break and we'll come again tomorrow for lecture 4.3. Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you.
Tomorrow is a quiz.
Yeah, tomorrow there will be a quiz. If I have to prepare the quiz first. But yes, I want to take a quiz tomorrow. At least we should start with the quizzes. So tomorrow in the last 5 minutes, probably there will be a quiz. provided I get time to create it. But the chances there will be a quiz. Okay. Nehal, so I actually I already created your assignments for today's lab and tomorrow's lab. It's just that I also create the solutions simultaneously. So I have not yet created the solutions for the Wednesday lab. Once I have the solutions, I'll give the solutions to the TA and I'll give the problems to you. So mostly by today afternoon, you will get the problems. There will be two problems. Basically, the Tuesday lab problem and the Wednesday lab problem. I will give it up to you guys, and you can do that as assignments and send it to. We will create a Google Classroom for it, and then we will take your submission from there. Yes, yes. I mean, quiz will be whatever we have done in the classes, right? Not really in the labs. It will be mostly on theory part. Okay, so thank you guys. We will come tomorrow at this whatever time it is. Okay, and we'll discuss lecture 4.3 tomorrow. Okay. Okay. Bye guys.